Breaking news on Patriots today by Chat Sports. Harrison Graham, Nick Rohloff with you. Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport had the scoop first that the Patriots are signing former Vikings wide receiver KJ Osborn. I believe 1-year deal. I don't know if that part of it's been announced, but I would assume that's the case. Rolly, we've been waiting for a wide receiver. Sure, it's not a number one, but a guy who's got 540 yards or more in each of the last 3 years, he's at least a guy who I would consider an upgrade over Devontae Parker, who's not here, and maybe this signals a potential Juju Smith-Schuster exit.
Yeah, no, I actually really do like this move. And listen, it's not going to be some mountain mover or needle pusher, but he is going to come in and do what he has always done, like in a good role. Like he'll push you downfield. He's got good speed to him. And this is something that is going to make, I think, Patriots fans happy when you look at this team in the fall. I was looking to see if there was any contract details as of yet. It doesn't look like there is. But this is a good signing. Don't get twisted. I really do like this move for New England. I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed with the fact it's not a Mike Williams. And I don't know if this takes him out of a Mike Williams conversation. I don't know if it does. But KJ is going to be a solid number 3, number 4. And I know we needed a wide receiver 1. But sometimes those guys aren't out there for New England. And it kind of feels like that's the case right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one. Even Mike Williams, to me, isn't a number 1 at this point with his injury history. Like, you're hoping he's a good number 2. Kind of already have that in Kendrick Bourne. So, look, I like it. I mean, I would say he's probably in the same caliber of players to Mario Douglas, but they're different types of players. Osborne's a little bit bigger, obviously. He can play some on the outside. It's kind of crazy. His first year, he was just a special teamer, return man, gunner, and then out of nowhere has 2 really good years. Took a slight step back this year, but with Kirk Cousins hurt, it's not surprising that his production went down just a little bit. He's a guy who can stretch the field a little bit vertically. He can run some of those deep crossers. I think it gives you good competition for wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. And look, if you're going to get a wide receiver 1 at this point, your best chance of finding that is probably in the NFL draft unless you trade for a T. Higgins or a Brandon Ayuk. So I like the move. I can't imagine it's going to be more than $5 million if I had to guess. We'll have to wait and see. Again, those details aren't in just yet. But grade the signing for us, A, B, C, D, or F. You need a receiver. It's not going to cost a ton. I'd give it a solid B signing, Rolly. Sure, it's not the sexy headline you're looking for, but it gets you another player in that room.
Yeah, I actually like it. B feels like a really good grade to me. And we've talked a lot over the past couple episodes on the channel about adding a wide receiver because the Patriots need that true X guy, that outside that can push the ball downfield and threaten a defense with their deep threat ability. I think KJ Osborn will be able to do that. Now, I'm not going to go out there and expect him to have a 1,000-yard season, but those numbers that you've already seen on screen of between 500 and 700 yards, I would expect him to be there again. And obviously, things are going to change with free agency continuing to go on, and then you've got the NFL draft. But to me, it's going to be KJ outside, on like maybe alone on the boundary, and then you got Kendrick and Demario Douglas working together on the other side. When you go to a 3 wide receiver set, maybe it's still just KJ and Kendrick on the outside if you go to a 2 receiver set. It all depends on the formation, but to me, I'd slot KJ Osborn into that wide receiver 2 role. And yes, we'll allude to the Juju Smith-Schuster talk of getting cut / trade in a second here, but this is how I would stack the receiver room. You have Demario Douglas playing that inside role, working over the middle of the field, Bourne outside, probably the first wide receivers to be called out there, and then KJ also out there with him.
Yeah, and look, hopefully you get someone in the draft, and then maybe Osborn becomes your top backup outside receiver or something like that. But again, it gives you flexibility. It gives you another body in that wide receiver room, and it also gives you, the ability to dump Juju in a draft day trade or to cut him if you just don't want him around anymore, whatever the case may be. So we'll have to wait and see. I think you and I both believe that could signal his exit. They already got rid of Devontae Parker. There was chatter that one or both of those guys could get cut or traded in this offseason. So we'll see if Juju's next.
Yeah, and it makes sense to get rid of Juju in this scenario, right? Because you now have 3 wide receivers that are probably going to be in your top 4, and KJ Osborn, Kendrick Bourne, and Demario Douglas. And then where you go from there to fill out the rest of that wide receiver room, Well, you'd probably give third-year man Tyquan Thornton his last chance because he can still maybe provide you with some deep threat and gadget situations because of how fast and speedy he is. So I think I'd be willing to give him one last chance in year 3. You have Kayshon Boutte potentially as that 6th guy, but you also have Jalen Reagor, who did some nice things down the stretch of the season.
They seem to like him as a returner.
Especially on special teams. So to me, you listed a lot of guys that this team has already. I think Juju's the man that gets cut or traded, and then his spot on this wide receiver room is likely filled by a rookie, whether it be in the 2nd or 3rd round of the NFL draft. That, to me, is how this wide receiver room is going to shake out, Harrison. If you disagree, let me know, but that's kind of how I feel like Eliot Wolf is going to finish out this receiver room with a rookie in the draft, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And look, maybe you draft 2 rookies and Tyquan Thornton has to earn a roster spot. Who knows? I mean, it's a new regime now, so it wouldn't completely shock me depending on how all of that plays out. Hit that subscribe button. We've got you covered on all the latest Patriots news, rumors, free agency, draft coverage, and a whole lot more. And speaking of the draft, Rolly and I cooked up a mock draft that went out just a couple of hours ago. The link to this video will be pinned in the comment section. Go check it out. At the conclusion of this video, you'll find it right there. Find out what Rolly and I did in the draft and if this signing potentially could impact what we did in that mock draft. So keep that in mind as well, as the Patriots do have the number 3 pick. A lot of buzz on what could happen there. All right, so you get KJ Osborn in free agency, Rolly. One of the more notable external signings, I would say, up to this point. We can kind of remind everybody what has taken place up to this point for the New England Patriots. Some internal moves. You go get Antonio Gibson, so kind of your second, or I guess third external playmaker if you want to count a guy like Austin Hooper, who has come in here as well. What would you say has stood out most based on this free agency period so far from Eliot Wolf?
To me, it's been value. I mean, you get a core 4 on a 1-year prove-it deal for a veteran who can maybe be a swing tackle or who knows, maybe start at right tackle for the Patriots on a 1-year deal. Bring back Henry, bring back Bourne. I like the Gibson deal. I think I've been outspoken about that
Good
as
value.
a nice back to complement Ramondre Stevenson. I think you got good value for Michael Wenu on a 3-year deal worth $19 million annually. I like that move for New England, keeping one of your best players in Foxborough. The guys on the list right here. I think Brissett's going to be better than people think if he has to play. Like, he did really well in 2022 in Alex Van Pelt's system.
He's more than serviceable.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd say he's a top 25 starter in this league.
And to me, Eliot Wolf clearly went into this free agency even with a lot of cap space, but did not want to overspend. And he got value deals on some of these guys, like Taki, like Josh Uche on a 1-year, $3 million deal. And Fareed Jennings, I'm telling you right now, is going to have more of an impact on this team than maybe more people anticipate. On a 4-year or a 3-year deal with $4 million annually, he is going to be one of the better players in the rushing defense department for New England this year, as he was last year. I really like that move for the Patriots.
I like the Armon Watts move. We haven't seen the money yet, but I assume that's close to the vet minimum, maybe a touch more. He's been a good rotation defensive tackle for a few different teams now, so I like that move. You bring in Nick Leverett, some depth there at guard. So now you add KJ Osborn, and look, they made a push for Calvin Ridley. That didn't work out, but I do think just because you're a team with a lot of cap space and just because you're a team that needs to improve a lot doesn't mean you should just force the issue and throw out reckless contracts. Now, would I have been interested in a contract that Tyron Smith got of like 6.5 base up to 20, but he probably wanted to sign with the team that he felt had a better chance with a veteran quarterback like Aaron Rodgers of being a playoff contender. On the surface, if you're Tyron Smith, are the Patriots or the Jets more attractive in that regard as a 33-year-old? You understand that. So even if you wanted him as New England, you may have had to really break the bank to get him. So you can't really fault that either.
No, yeah, and a lot of people are still going to talk about wide receiver and offensive tackle. I do want to, quickly before we say this, get out of here. I don't think this impacts anything draft-wise for New England. I know fans are always looking at these signings and what it points to with the NFL draft. KJ Osborn's a fine receiver. I think he'll play a solid role on this Patriots team, but it does not impact the need for wide
If
receiver.
they want Marvin Harrison Jr., KJ Osborn isn't going to stop them from drafting.
Yeah, it's not going to change their opinion on a quarterback. It's not going to change their opinion on trading back. Like, I just want to make this abundantly clear. If you watch this entire video and there's one takeaway other than KJ Osborn being a nice little rotation wide receiver for this team, this does not impact anything for New England going into late April.
Maybe it gives you more flexibility, more options, right? Like maybe you're like, well, we don't absolutely have to take a receiver with X pick or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's not like KJ Osborn is factoring into your multi-year building plans here. Like this is a guy that can help you this year. If he's good and you want to keep him, cool. But that's kind of what it is. So we'll see where it goes from there. Again, go check out the mock draft. It's pinned in the comments right now. Top of the comment section, you click. You can watch right there. He's Nick Rohloff. I'm Harrison Graham. We'll be back tomorrow with more Patriots content.